Hi everyone and welcome back to my YouTube channel. Before we get started, I just wanted to say a few personal words since it's been a long time. If you're just here for the tutorial, feel free to skip ahead. I have added timestamps below so you can just jump straight to it. If you've been following me for a while, you might remember that I've used to share some Ghibli-inspired patterns. And eventually I took them down because I wasn't sure about the copyright situation. And honestly, I just didn't want to take any risk. Ever since then, so many of you have been asking me if those patterns would ever come back. While I still don't feel comfortable with offering them as paid downloadable patterns, I thought why not just make them into free YouTube tutorials. I really missed sharing these designs with you, and this feels like the perfect way to bring them back. And also, they've been rotting for years in my files. And that is not what I want for them, you know? These are my babies and they need some attention. But honestly, that is not the only reason why I've been away. Over the past couple of years, I've grown a lot. Not only as a crochet pattern designer and a business owner, but also as a person. Looking back, I put so much pressure on myself. Like everything needed to be perfect. Every video, every photo needed to be perfect. I was thinking about things like whether I was pretty enough, whether I was, I don't know, if you would like me, if my English was good enough, if my accent is too noticeable. Stupid stuff like that, that no one ever was thinking about. Except like me. And eventually trying to do everything perfectly and be perfect became overwhelming. What a surprise. And instead of creating and having fun with it, I spent so much time worrying whether things were good enough to share or to post. Something I've also struggled with a lot and still do sometimes is comparing myself to other creators and other people in general. There are so many incredible, talented people out there, and I often had the feeling that I needed to be just as good as they are before I deserved posting something, if that makes sense. It doesn't, because it's stupid. But that's the human brain, I guess, and I think I'm not the only one struggling with things like that. Okay, but I'm slowly, very slowly, but I'm learning that creating and art is not a competition. Every artist, designer, and every crocheter in general has their own style, their own pace, and also their own journey. But also, that is exactly what makes handmade art so special, right? It doesn't have to be perfect, it just has to make you happy. Instead of waiting until everything is perfect, because that will never happen, I'm just going to create. Because if I never share anything, I will never know where it could have led. Makes sense. And if there's one thing my business has taught me, it's that the best things happened simply because I decided to start. That's enough personal stuff. Today I'm going to show you how to make... That was no sound effect, that was me. My Ghibli inspired no-face car hanger. It's still one of my favorite designs, and I think this is the perfect pattern to bring this channel back to life with a free YouTube tutorial. I really hope you enjoy making it with me, and if you do, don't forget to subscribe, because I would love to turn all my Ghibli car hangers into a YouTube tutorial series maybe. Alright, let's get started! Before we start crocheting, I just wanted to quickly mention that I will be using Alize Softy Plus yarn throughout this tutorial. Of course, you can use any yarn you would like, but keep in mind that your finished size may vary and you might need to adjust your crochet hook sizes accordingly. Now let's take a look at everything you will need for this project. First, you will need some white or cream yarn. I'm using Alize Softy Plus in the color 62 for the face. Then you will need some purple yarn. I'm using number 47 for the face details, and some black yarn. I'm using color number 60 for the body. You will also need a little bit of stuffing, some black acrylic yarn for the mouth, and you can use any scrap yarn you have laying around. You will also need a pair of 6mm safety eyes or whichever size you prefer depending on the yarn you're using. Of course, you will need some scissors, a darning needle for the sewing parts, and a stitch marker to mark the beginning of every round. For the crochet hooks, I'm gonna use two different sizes. For the body, I'm using a 4mm hook. And for the face and the swing, I'm using a 3mm hook. Now we're going to crochet the body using our black yarn and the 4mm crochet hook, and we will start at the top of the head and work our way down. For row 1, begin with the magic ring and crochet 6 single crochets into that magic ring. And I like to place my stitch marker in the first stitch of every round so I don't lose track of where I am. So once you've finished your 6 stitches, gently pull on the yarn tail to close the magic ring. For round 2, I will place my stitch marker into the first stitch of the round again, and then I will work 1 single crochet followed by 1 increase. Repeat that sequence 3 times, giving you a total of 9 stitches. An increase is just 2 single crochets into the same stitch. In round 3, crochet 2 single crochets followed by 1 increase. Repeat that 3 times to end up with 12 stitches in total. Next, work 3 single crochets and 1 increase. Repeat that 3 times and you will finish the round with 15 stitches. And that's it for all of our increases. Your piece should now look like a little dome, just like this. Round 5 and 6 are nice and simple. Just place 1 single crochet into every stitch all the way around. I will speed this part up a little, but feel free to pause the video if you need more time. In round 7, we will make the little arms using 2 bubble stitches. Start by crocheting 4 single crochets. So I just made my first single crochet, put in my stitch marker again and make 3 more single crochets. 1, 2, 3 and 4. Now for the bubble stitch, we will make 4 unfinished double crochets. So yarn over, insert your hook, pull up a loop and pull through 2 and repeat that 4 times. You should have 5 loops on your hook. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then yarn over and pull through all 5 loops to complete the bubble stitch. Continue with 5 single crochets. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. Then make another bubble stitch with 4 unfinished double crochets. And finish the round with 4 single crochets. For rounds 8 through 11, simply crochet 1 single crochet into each stitch around. That's 15 single crochets per round for a total of 4 rounds. And once again, I will speed this up. Alright, that is what it should look like so far, and we are almost finished with the body. Before closing the body, it's time to add the stuffing. I like to push most of the stuffing towards the top to create a nice and round head shape. And I also don't add too much stuffing to the bottom, so it stays nice and flat. That makes it much easier to close the body neatly later on. So once you are happy with the shape, we can close the body. Fasten off, leaving a long tail for the closing. Thread the tail onto your darning needle and weave it through the back loops only of all 15 remaining stitches. So here you can see I'm only going through the back loops, so not the 2 loops, only the back loops, and I will go through all 15 back loops all the way around. So once you've gone all the way around, simply pull the yarn tight to close the opening. Finally, weave in the ends and the body is finished. I like to make a little knot at the end and hide the yarn tail into the body. Now let's make the face. For this part I will be using my white yarn and a 3mm crochet hook. Start by making a slip knot and chain 5. So 1, 2, 3, 4 and 5. We will begin working into the second chain from the hook. So skip the last chain you made and work into the second chain. In the first stitch, make 1 increase, so 2 single crochets into the same stitch. Then crochet 2 single crochets in the next 2 stitches. And 2. And in the last stitch, make another increase. So now we will continue on the other side of the foundation chain. So we are working in spiral rounds now. Make another increase. Then again 2 single crochets into the next 2 stitches. I like to crochet over the starting yarn tail so I don't have to weave it in later. Make another increase at the last stitch of the round and you finished round 1. At the end you should have 12 stitches. For round 2, simply make 1 increase in every stitch around. This will give you a total of 24 stitches. and I will speed that up again for you. To finish the face, simply slip stitch into the next stitch, and then fasten off, leaving a long tail for sewing later. And you should end up with this oval shape. And if you crocheted along with the hanging tail, just cut it, or if you didn't, then just weave it in now. Now insert the safety eyes between round 1 and 2, placing them about 4 stitches apart. And before attaching the backings, take a moment to adjust the placement until you are happy with it and with how it looks. So once you're satisfied, push the backings on securely. For the mouth, I didn't have any thinner black yarn at home, so I simply separated the strands of my acrylic yarn to make it thinner, and that worked perfectly for this little detail. Because now we will embroider a small little mouth between the eyes, about 1 stitch wide. Bring your needle from the back of the face to the front, then insert it 1 stitch over to create a small horizontal mouth. Bring the needle back to the back of the face and secure the yarn with a double knot. So before tying the knot, I like to place my bounty needle across the front of the mouth. This prevents me from pulling the yarn too tightly and making the mouth disappear into the blush. Once the knot is secure, I simply remove the needle and tie the knot. Next, we will embroider the little purple details of the no face. I will show you exactly where to insert your needle, but feel free to slow the video down or pause it if you need a little more time. You should have 2 spots above the eyes and 2 spots under the eyes. And finally, sew the face onto the body. I like to place it between rounds 3 and 9, about 1 stitch away from each arm. Before sewing, I like to secure the face with a knitting needle or a few pins. This helps keeping everything in place and lets me check the placement before I start sewing. So once you're happy with how it looks, sew the face onto the body all the way around. And take your time with this step because it really brings your little no face to life, and this is a really important part to really make it look cute and original like a no face. So once you've finished sewing, bring the yarn tail to the back and weave in all ends. And finally, the face is finished. Let's move on to the swing. I will be using my white yarn and a 3mm crochet hook again for the swing. Start by making a slip knot and chaining 9. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 and 9. And we will again begin working in the second chain from the hook. Crochet 8 single crochet across the chain. And I like to place a stitch marker again in the first stitch so I don't lose count. So after you completed the 8th stitch, chain 1 and turn your work. Repeat the same thing for the second row by crocheting 8 single crochets. And I will remove my stitch marker here because I don't need it anymore. Again, chain 1 and turn. For the next row, crochet 7 single crochets and in the last stitch make 1 increase. From this point on, we will continue working in one continuous round. So without chaining 1, rotate your piece and crochet 8 single crochets evenly along the long side. And once you reach the corner, make 1 increase. And then crochet 2 single crochets across the short side. So turn your work like this and work on this short side. Can be a bit tricky to get in there, but just take your time. One and 2. And make another increase into the corner. Continue with 8 single crochets along the other long side. Make 1 last increase in the final corner. Now make 2 single crochets to finish the round. Depending on your tension, you may need to add or subtract a stitch so you end up right in the middle of the short side. Alright, before we make the hang chain, I like to quickly place my no face onto the swing just to make sure everything fits nicely. Now it's time to make the hanging loop. Chain 80 or adjust the length to whatever works best for you. If you would like your hanger to sit higher or lower, simply make your chain a little shorter or longer. So before attaching it to the other side of the swing, I like to do one final test fit. I place my no face onto the swing and secure it with a few stitch markers. You can also use pins if you prefer. Attach the chain to the opposite side of the swing with a slip stitch. Then fasten off, but leave a very long tail. We will use it to sew the arms onto the swing in just a moment. Now thread the yarn tail onto your darning needle and bring it up through the hanging chain at the same height where you would like to attach the first arm. Insert your needle through the first arm, then straight through the second arm, and finally back into the hanging chain at the same height on the opposite side. Pull the yarn snug, but not too tightly to keep everything nicely centered. And finally, weave in all of your yarn ends and your no-face car hanger is finally finished. Thank you so much for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this tutorial and had fun crocheting along with me. And if you did, don't forget to like this video and subscribe my channel, because I would love to continue the Ghibli inspired car hanger series here on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here and for welcoming me back in the YouTube world. And see you in the next video. Bye!